So we're looking at a guy who could be spinning plates and did spin plates. He just went about it wrong. So you look at Andrew Huberman. Andrew Huberman went from that 20th percentile into the 4.5 percentile because he qualified for it. It's a rare occasion, by the way, when a guy does that. Jumping from the 20th percentile into the 4.5 percentile, especially when you're 48 fucking years old, that is a miracle from Jehovah. That is like from on high, man. Are you kidding? That is it used to be anyways, an insane jump, especially at that late an age. Now, if we're talking to the guy is like in his 20s and he did something incredible, he's like Eddie Van Halen, right? Or he's like a fucking rock star. He's like Keith Richards. He's David Lee Roth, right? Those guys are already set up. Those guys they go from zero to hero, and it's just a natural progression, right? Or it could be an athlete. You could be some 19-year-old kid from the inner city or some 21-year-old kid from the inner city. You get to the NFL draft and you're drafted in the NFL, and now suddenly you're playing for the Raiders. You're playing for wherever, right? You're playing for an NFL team, and you go from making $0 a year to making $10 million a year or whatever it is. Right? Even just $1 million a year is a huge difference, right? It prompts what I call the too much, too young, too fast dynamic, which is it's too much, too young, too fast, right? And we talk about this in athletes quite a bit, but it basically boils down to you're not ready. You didn't learn the lessons you needed to learn to get to that level of success. So too much, too young, too fast. You got too much. You got too much of a good thing, too much pre-selection, too much fame, too much in notoriety, too much popularity. Women want to fuck you. You suddenly have gone from zero to fucking hero, and whatever you were doing before, now you're recognized on a national, international, worldwide level. Okay. Too much, too young. You don't necessarily have to be 48 years old to be too young, right? You just have to be unaccustomed to it. I use this same terminology or this same dynamic with Dr. Jordan Peterson. Dr. Jordan Peterson in 2016 was no one, zilch. Nobody knew who the fuck he was. Okay. In fact, he was just some obscure professor at Ontario or Toronto College, well liked, don't get me wrong. And probably a charismatic individual in that classroom for sure. But until he confronted those children, those students about enforced language and enforced pronouns, until that went viral, no one knew who the fuck he was. And then suddenly he is catapulted out of obscurity in 2017-ish, I think. And now he becomes Dr. Jordan Peterson, right? He's on every show. Everyone wants to interview him. He's controversial. Let's get him in here. We need red meat. We need clicks. We need eyes on the screen. We need to interview this guy. Why is he saying he won't use the pronouns that we want him to use, right? And so he goes from there, and then it turns out he's got more to say than just like your pronouns or your feelings. He's got other things to say as well. And then so that personality and that obscurity is left behind. But the mentality that he had back then is still carried over into the fame part. So too much, too young, that's the too young part. And the too fast part is it happens overnight or relatively overnight. So and I'm not saying, obviously Andrew Huberman had been working on he'd been doing what he's doing for a long time. So you can't say he just was an overnight success, but his notoriety only came from 2021 to 2024. And we're not even halfway through 2024 right now. So really in the last 2.5 years, he has enjoyed this sort of worldwide success and this worldwide notoriety. And you could make an argument, well, maybe it was 2020. Maybe people knew him before that. It probably did, but not on the level that he's known now. Not on the level where 6 women would get together and form some support group to fucking like hammer him flat. Or like the New York Magazine would not give 2 fucking shits about him if he were Andrew Huberman of 2019. They care about him when he's Andrew Huberman of 2024 because he has something to gain, or they have something to gain, and he has something to lose. So that's why they go after him. But here's the too young part. The too young part is that he doesn't understand that with that sexual opportunity and with that notoriety and with that social proof comes this responsibility, or I say responsibility, becomes this liability to know how women are going to try to play him, how women are going to see him as a mark, how he's going to be treated if he's fucking 6 chicks, and people expect him to be this squeaky clean personality where he's talking to Dr. David Buss. Oh yeah, I would never 6 women at the same time. Who could possibly do that? Right? That's the crux of this. That's the too much, too young, too fast. It happened too quickly. I've said this, and I'll have to apply this to my own sort of mentality here. So I'm going to give you my opinion. My opinion is this: is that I've never been a get rich fast guy, get rich quick. Never been that guy. I'm Adam Sosnick and I have had talks about this because he's the same way. I'm a get rich slow guy because there are lessons that you learn from your failures and from your building process and from being creative and from developing ideas. I have developed products. I have developed ideas. I have developed like marketing. I've developed brand identities for pretty much my entire career. So I understand the process. When I did my first book, I had no idea what I was doing. I had a general idea what I probably could do. I didn't know I needed an Audible. I didn't know I needed a digital book. I didn't know I needed a Kindle. I just made a print book because I thought, hey, I'm a designer. I can do it. And I did. And the first thing anybody says is, where's your Kindle? I'm like, oh shit, I need a Kindle. And then they're like, well, okay, I got the Kindle. Hey, I like to listen to my books on Audible. Where's the Audible for this? I'm like, I got to find somebody to, and then I got Sam Bada, thank you very much, to read the first 3 books. But when I did the first book, I had no idea. Now, if I'm going to launch my 6th book, I'm going to have to come out with all that shit and a fucking bag of chips before I go and like, publish anything at this point, because that's the first thing people are going to demand. Now, I usually stagger the releases of like the Audible and the print because everybody will just order Audible. I want you to get the print book, right? But too much, too young, too fast. I didn't know that. I didn't know it was going to be successful. I didn't know that The Rational Male was going to be the Bible of the red pill. It is now, and now I have a responsibility to that. But I learned my lessons along the way that helped me jump from the next one to the next one to the next one. If you go from 0 to hero, you miss out on all of that, all of the lessons that you need so that you're responsible when you're a hero, or that you're at least protecting yourself when you're a hero. And that's really Andrew Huberman's only real, I think, failing in all of this, is that he tried to use the old sort of blue pill modality, let's just say, of how he should treat women and how you should keep a woman and everything else. Oh, you should only have one woman at a time. Well, he did 6 of them, but they were all one at a time. They weren't all concurrent, but so what happens is now everybody wants to turn him into the Tinder swindler. They want to say, oh, he's a brain surgeon. He's a brain guy. So he knows shit about your brain and your psychology. So he can twist his fiendish little plans and make you want to suck whenever he wants you to, right? That's essentially what they're trying to do, because this chick has an axe to grind with him, which you would know if you'd had the benefit of understanding all that shit over the course of, say, like, I don't know, 10 years instead of 2 years. So there's certain lessons you learn along the way that help you certainly retain the wealth that you get, whether that wealth is whether your integrity or your respectability or your brand or your money, whatever it else. So there's ways to create value that don't have anything to do with money. Usually, I hope they do, but retaining that and securing that is very important. So now I want to point this out one more time here. Is like the 80-20 rule, that is the 80 percentile and the 20th percentile are all part of they must earn. Okay, you have to do something that is meritable. Now, people have asked me this before, like, well, Rolo, what about like hypergamy when it comes to alpha fucks and beta bucks, right? It doesn't matter like how much beta bucks, how valuable you are from the beta buck side. If you don't look good and women don't want to you, then they're only having obligated sex with you. Yes, that's transactional. So, but the mindset really pervades all ideologies in society. Okay, so I'll explain to you what I mean about that. I got all my notes here. Sorry, I wrote this down this morning. Okay, so you've already heard the maxim that women break rules for alphas and they make rules for betas. This is true. True alphas are roughly 5% of men. Monogamy is about the 20 percenters, not the 80%, or not the 5 percenters. Okay, it's really not about the 80 percenters either. But when it comes to monogamy, the 20th percenters are guys who need monogamy. They like thinking of having dating non-exclusively to like 20th percentile guys is really kind of a foreign language for them, because they are in such a state of sexual deficit, not abundance, like deficit, that it seems logical, and deductively it seems logical, that to attain and retain a woman implies that you have to do what she wants you to do. You have to earn you have to qualify for you have to have a good job, come from a good family, go to a good college, still stay in shape. I mean, think about all the prerequisites. I've said this before, as when you're looking at the laundry list, it's Royce used to call this the 436 bullet point checklist, right? You got to be hot, got to be good looking. Got it. You got to be funny. You got to be intelligent. You have to be educated. You have to make a lot of money. You have to be passionate about what you do. You have to be the same religion. You have to like puppy dogs. You have to like Disneyland. You have to want kids. You have to like her parents have to like you, and every one of her girlfriends has to like you, and on and on and on and on and on and on down the line of all these things. Now, do you have to meet every single criteria? No, but if you can meet the first 4, you might be in there. But you still had to meet that criteria. She is the prize to be won. She is the qualifier. That's why we say men need to become the prize, not the other way around. Say the 5%er guys, those guys are automatically the prize. Those are the guys that women will break rules. Simple as that. But the 20th percenters, they see monogamy as their only recourse to getting pussy. How to it's really solving their reproductive problems. Getting is the proximate goal. Reproducing, having a family, that's the ultimate goal for the 20 percenters. So they come from a position of monogamy as a goal state. I would argue that prior to 2021, Andrew Huberman most likely was in that same kind of thing. And that's why dating women, 6 women, whatever it was, 5, 6 women, concurrently seemed like the logical way to go about it. It seemed like a good idea. This is how we should do it. You can also make the case for, like, say, Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods was married, but Tiger Woods, like Chris Rock always used to joke, like, well, Tiger Woods just realized he was Tiger Woods, right? Finally, it's like, hey, I'm Tiger Woods. I can escorts, I can, stars, whatever I want. And he could get away with it for a while, but his image was this squeaky clean, good family guy because he married a Swedish bikini model. He had 2 kids with her. And when all that shit went to hell, people's impression of him was kind of, even to this day, Tiger Woods is still Tiger Woods, right? Steel Panther writes a song about Tiger Woods. All right. So you've got that aspect working against Andrew Huberman right now. Whether he cultivated that, like, that persona or not, that's what the women at the New York Magazine were trying to imply, that this is what he's really about. And this is why he's not really about that. So they're looking for, he's not really who he says he is. And so they're trying to disqualify him and discredit him. And they're trying to run him up the flagpole, which I think is fucked. And I think he doesn't deserve this. I think the only mistake that Andrew Huberman made is that he wasn't above board. He wasn't spinning plates the way he probably should have spun plates, because he doesn't come from a background of sexual abundance. So when that guy gets sexual abundance, now all bets are off, but he doesn't want to be a dick, because he doesn't say, well, I'm other girls too. That because he's probably concerned that his 20% brain is still concerned that he's not going to be able to spin all these plates. They probably still wouldn't have cared. Like if you said, I'm fucking this chick and I'm fucking this chick too. You caught me. Sorry. If you would have just said that and been upfront about it, those women would have been like, they probably would have harder, because like, oh, there's more. I'm in competition with these bitches. Oh, watch me suck. Right. It's an aspect of dread and urgency and competition anxiety, which if you have been part of that 20th percentile for pretty much all of your life, up until the point where you get to be, go from Andrew Huberman to Andrew Huberman, then yeah, you're probably going to want to carry that over. Now, the last thing I'm going to say today before we get out of here is that when you go from too much, too young, too fast to when you go from like 0 to hero, part of the too fast and part of the too much is that you carry over the things that were your demons from your previous life into your new life. Now, I don't mean real demons. Okay. So just stop it. Okay. What I mean is, if you were an alcoholic before you became super famous online, or you became the next podcast sensation, you're probably good. Now you were once a broke ass alcoholic. Now you're an alcoholic with $10 million and a huge following. Or maybe you had a drug addiction. Maybe you were addicted to benzodiazepines. Maybe you like escorts all the time. Maybe you were addicted to prostitutes. And now you've gone from being a broke ass motherfucker trying to scrape by so you can get a $50. And now you're a dude who's got a shit ton of money. Now you can left and right. Now that shit's going to catch up with you. So eventually shit catches up with you. Same thing that's why I brought up Destiny earlier. That's why I brought up a lot of these guys. Sometimes all you got to do is let mediocre minds be mediocre, because their background and their demons will catch up with them. And it'll be amplified exponentially because they've gone from zero to hero, and they believe they deserve to be where they're at without the benefit of having learned all of the things, all the lessons along the way that should have gotten them from zero to hero. So you can all of the things that used to be your vices, all the things that your addictions, all the things that, and that doesn't even have to be those bad things. It could be just your modality of thinking that you carry over into your new way of life, into your into your 5%er life, right? You carry that over into that, and now it becomes a liability. And that liability is something that Huberman is now discovering as courtesy of New York Magazine. Is it salacious? Yes. Is it gossip? Yes. Is it bullshit? Yes. Am I defending Huberman till the tooth and nail? Absolutely. Does not deserve this. He is a much better human being than any of the women involved in any of the people who are writing about him right now and giving him shit. And I'm happy to say that even guys like Rob Henderson and a lot of other people who are like professional, who know him professionally, he doesn't have to do a goddamn thing. And I said this on Access Vegas. I said he took the right tact, or his PR team most definitely took the right tact, because they're not saying anything about it. I've looked at Huberman. I'm looking for a response. There's no response. He's just like, fuck off. I'm going to keep doing what I'm going to do. You know why? Because no one else can do what he does. And that's the tact that I've been trying to take myself recently, is nobody can do what I do. If I'm pissed off at people misrepresenting the red pill, all I can do is be a better representative of it than they can. And that's what I'm planning to do. Instead of bitching about it, instead of like trying to tear people down and everything else, whatever, I think it's pretty self-evident, the people who I'm talking about. And the more they fuck up, the better I look. So I'm going to be the alternative. I'm going to be the fucking sane alternative. And I think Huberman is pretty much doing the same thing too. The only thing I think it's a law of power. It's like, if you give a small problem any kind of like attention, it becomes a bigger problem. You can, was it Winston Churchill said, you'll never get to where you're marching to if you stop to throw rocks at every yapping dog along the way. So I'm done fucking throwing rocks at yapping dogs. They know who they are, and you know who they are. And so I'm just going to get back to business and talk about shit like the iron rules of Tomasi, which I'll probably get into on Wednesday. Plate spinning, plate theory. I think I got into a good portion of that today. The main thing about plate theory is you got to be above board. If you're going to date non-exclusively, especially in the 21st century, it has to come with being 100% brutally, full disclosure, honest about it. Like that's why Justin Waller can do what he does. That's why Mike does what he does. That's why Andrew Huberman probably could have been much happier and less worried about shit if he had just adopted the same mentality as, like, say, I don't know, like Justin Waller, like be fucking upfront about it. It's open on my end and closed on your end. And that's just how it's got to be, because I'm Andrew Huberman and I can do that. And if you don't like it, go fuck yourself, you know? And I'll tell you right now, there'll be women who really want to do that. So there you go.